Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery and those listening at home. Please be seated while Councillor Dewhurst delivers the blessing. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, as we gather tonight to serve our community, we ask for your wisdom and guidance. Help us to stay focused on the facts before us, making decisions with clarity, fairness and compassion. Also pray for those in our community who may be struggling with anger and frustration. Grant them peace, understanding and the ability to engage with kindness. May our discussions be respectful, our hearts open, our actions just, so that we may lead with integrity and work towards the betterment of all. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Can I begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and pay my respects to their elders both past and present. It is now 7 p.m. and I declare the meeting open. No announcement of visitors. Disclaimer. Members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by city staff. We are live streaming, so please note that all council meetings are digitally recorded and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, except for confidential agenda items, during which time the live stream will be temporarily suspended. Record of attendance. We are all here with two Deputy Mayor Serena Williamson and Councillor Kevin McDonald joining us online, so we're all here this evening. Disclosures of interest. We have several disclosures of interest this evening. Do you want to pass that one? I'll just read them out, eh? Do you want to just pass that one here? Oh. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have disclosures of interest from myself, from Councillor Betts and Councillor Good on item number 13.2.3, which is a development application for the additions to the Gosnells Golf Club, Ablutions and Canteen at 144 Campbell Road, Canning Vale, in that we are social members of the club. We'll also have disclosures of interest on item number 13.4.1 for the Community Citizen of the Year Awards for the selection panel meeting for the 13th of November 2024. One disclosure of interest from Councillor Lloyd, who is on the board of one of the organisations nominated for the award. One disclosure of interest from Councillor Emma Zhang, who has served on boards with three of the people nominated at the Community Citizen of the Year Award. And I have a disclosure of interest as well, as I serve on the board with one of the nominees, as well as I did nominate several people for this award. So are there any further disclosures of interest? No, thank you. Announcements by the presiding member. So councillors be aware that we were privileged to host the Governor-General. For those in the audience may be interested to know that we were the first local government to host the Governor-General Sam Mostyn last week in our city grounds, to which she was very generous with her time and talked to everybody that was in attendance, and she was a very modern governor, and we hope to hear good things from her in the future. And she was also very complimentary to the council gardens, and I note that she also mentioned her time here at the City of Gosnells on the ABC radio, as well as at Government House on Friday night, so that was great that we were able to host her here at the City. On the weekend, I was privileged to lay a wreath on behalf of the City of Gosnells for the 44th Battalion, and that was representing members of this community that had passed away, that had served in the 44th Battalion. And it was actually especially special to me because my great-grandfather served in the 44th Battalion, so it was a really lovely event organised by a young 19-year-old Army Reserves guy. So, lovely event, and hopefully he gets some more traction with that time going forward. Last week, I attended Canberra in my interim role as the Acting Chair for NGAA to advocate for improved funding for the Outer Metro councils across WA, South Australia, New South Wales and Victoria. I think we were well received, but we will need to wait and see what comes from that with the politicians in the big house in Canberra. And also earlier this week, the SECA mayors so they're the mayors from Victoria Park, Gosnells, Canning and Armidale, met with the Honourable Sam Rowe, who's the Parliamentary Secretary for Sports to advocate for major sporting infrastructure out here in the City of Gosnells, as well as other councils. So hopefully we get some traction with that as well. So they are my announcements. Reports of delegates, are there any? Councillor Baines, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 20th of November, CEO and I attended the South East Metropolitan Zone meeting. At this meeting, we brought forward an item from one of our recent meetings regarding the disqualification of elected members. This was supported, and this will now be taken to the Walga State Council meeting. So it was a successful evening.
Thank you, Councillor Bones. Any other reports from delegates? No, thank you. Question time for the public and the receiving of public statements. A period of 15 minutes is allocated for questions, with a further period of 15 minutes provided for statements from members of the public. To ensure an equal and fair opportunity is provided to address council, a period of 3 minutes per speaker is allowed for public statement. Thank you. The first question is from Mr Brennan Cherry. If you would like to come forward, Mr Cherry, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Lyons. Question 1. Does the City of Gosnells have any plans to introduce a code of conduct for public question time in order to stamp out constant attacks by some members of the public on elected members?
Director for Business Services, Mr Bradbrook, will respond to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are already provisions in Council Standing Orders local law in relation to public questions that does allow questions that are offensive or use objectionable expressions, defamatory, vexatious, to be ruled out of order. So I think what Mr Cherry is asking for is already covered in our standing orders.
Thank you. Your next question, Mr Cherry.
Thank you. Question 2 is, does the City of Gosnells have any plans to increase ranger patrols during December at night in order to stop dangerous parking around the streets with Christmas lights in Thornley, such as Consular Court and Tahoe Close?
Thank you, and I'll get Mr Bradbrook to respond to that question as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We don't have plans to increase patrols, but what we have introduced is an after-hours ranger service back in July. So where there are issues of parking, dangerous parking, people parked across driveways and the like, we do have the ability to send rangers out to deal with those as they arise.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Cherry. I now call forward Daniel Stevens from Maddington. If you could come forward, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lyons. Look, my first question is about the failed bid for the outdoor cinema at Harmony Fields. So my question is, why was the failed bid for an outdoor cinema not directed to the Maddington industrial area, which has a large amount of vacant land?
Thank you for your question. Mr CEO will respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, it's really the applicant to make a determination of where they would like their facility established.
Next question, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I got my rates and I finally read the newsletter. I haven't done it for about 10 years, but I found something really interesting. When you read this, for every $24 goes on sports and recreation, and only $9 is for community facilities. So in the budget, why is $9 spent on community facilities and $24 spent on sports and recreation?
Thank you for your question. For a detailed response, Mr Bradbrook will give you that response. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The amount that is allocated under sport and recreation there includes the maintenance of all of our parks and reserves. So it's, with over 300 parks and reserves across the city that need to be mowed and irrigated and fertilised and bushes pruned, that is a significant expense to the city, whereas the built infrastructure doesn't take that similar level of ongoing maintenance. That's the reason for the difference in the expenditure.
Thank you for that. Now bring forward Mr Leon Walker. Mr Walker, you've got 4 questions, and we'll just get you to ask the first 2, and if time permits, you can come back with the other 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question 1. At the last OCM, did Councillor Dewhurst make allegedly derogatory remarks about a member of the public when they were reading a public statement, and about 2 members of the public during the debate on item 13.1.1?
I'm not aware that he made derogatory remarks. I am aware that he called points of order. I'd have to go back and listen. Sorry, Mr Walker. Thank you. Your next question.
Question 2. What right of reply do members of the public have in this chamber in relation to allegedly derogatory remarks made about them by Councillor Dewhurst at the last OCM in this chamber?
There is no right of reply, Mr Walker. Thank you.
Sorry?
There is no right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Back for a minute. The next question is from Dr John Gideon Hartnett. I haven't got a suburb for Mr Hartnett. Thank you. Suburb is your phone.
Thank you, Mayor. My question one. I know the council is concerned about public health in the community. Therefore, I would like to know, has the council received documentation on the safety profiles of the COVID-19 vaccines given in the city to adults, pregnant women, children and babies? Safety profile means results obtained after extensive studies over years according to standard vaccine investigations. I am a father of 9 children and 20 grandchildren, and I would like to see that information to have fully informed consent for their ongoing health.
Thank you for your question, and Mr Bradbrook will respond to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over recent weeks, we've received a range of correspondence in relation to COVID-19 vaccines, and some of that information purported, I guess, to be around the safety protocols for the use of vaccines.
Thank you. Your next question.
If you have received that safety profile information, when will you make it available to the residents? And if you have not yet received it, when do you expect to receive it and make it available?
And Mr Bradbrook respond again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We don't intend to make the information publicly available, so any information in relation to the safety of the COVID-19 vaccines should be sought from the Health Department or the TGA.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Mr Darren Kelly. Thank you, Mr Kelly from Maddington. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors. As per the last council meeting, I appreciate that you all as a council approved the demolition of the building at Carrican to improve the area. I do not believe that this supports the future for the black cockatoos in the wild. Not removing vital trees for the survival of the cockatoos in the wild that are needed for their continuous survival. This was brought to the councillors' planning department 5 years ago, but was only brought to our attention on the 11th of October. I'm asking why the petition or the submission for the grants for the trees to be planted on Harmony Fields, why were we also not told about this back in that time, which was before the 28th of June? I received an email stating, after I asked for a copy of the submission, it's not appropriate to give Darren a copy of the application, but you can tell him that the application included the following statement about the cinema proposal. Approximately 5.7 hectares of the area is earmarked for future cinema development and so has not been included within this project. With the area earmarked as not proposal...
Sorry, Mr Kelly, can you just summarise that to a question? Thank you.
Certainly can. My question on this this part is, does that mean that no matter with the findings of the CEO, MODAP, and the thoughts of the voting community, that the money comes above your constituents?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, so I'll just ask you maybe to reword that. Sorry, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just not sure I understand the question.
No. After the motion was put forward by Glenn for the CEO to have a look at the ramifications of the lease being pulled. That's where the question is heading, is are you more looking towards the monetary side of things, or are you looking towards your constituents and your voters?
Okay, well, from a councillor perspective, we'll have to wait and see what that report looks like, and they probably will consider all factors to go into that report, so we look forward to getting that back for you soon.
Okay, well, that brings me to the second.
Yep.
With the motion put forward by Glenn Dewhurst for the CEO to investigate the ramifications of the rejection of the lease to Ace Cinemas for the use of Harmony Fields, When is this going to be made public, or is this going to be swept under the mat and kept internal?
No, that motion requires that the report come back to council, so you will have an opportunity to speak on it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Katika Special from the City of Gosnells.
It's Kathy Speciale.
Sorry?
Kathy Speciale?
Okay, sorry. Kathy Speciale, thank you.
Okay. My first question is, has the City of Gosnells received an email from the Port Hedland Council regarding a motion on COVID-19?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And would the City of Gosnells consider an advocacy position for a Royal Commission into the COVID-19 response?
I'll get the Director Brad Brooke to respond to that, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Local governments are not the experts on public health matters, so it would not really be appropriate for council to develop an advocacy position on a matter that it doesn't have the expertise in.
Thank you. The next question is from Scott Easton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How much COVID relief funding was provided by the Commonwealth or state government to the City of Gosnells during the pandemic?
Thank you, and Director for Infrastructure will answer that question. Thank you, Mr Glover.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The City has or anticipates receiving, because the funding is still coming through, a total of 10 million, which is 9 million through the LRCIP federal program and 1 million through the State Lottery West program.
Next question.
And the second question, please provide a detailed response of on how funds were spent to the benefit of the community.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can assure you all was spent for the community. A breakdown, 5.5 million on the community facilities, 2.8 million on parks infrastructure and 1.7 million on road infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Walker, would you like to come back and ask your next two questions, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What measures are available in the Local Government Act 1995, any regulations empowered by the Act, and any local law to hold Councillor Dewhurst to account for his conduct at the OCM on November 12 last?
Mr Walker, you would know that the Mayor is responsible for maintaining order at a council meeting. Thank you. Your next question.
Have the Black Cockatoo Preservation Society Incorporated and Wildlife Australia Incorporated fully met their obligations to carry out maintenance and capital expenditure as stipulated in the lease for Carrican?
Thank you. Mr CEO will answer your question on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City is working with Wildlife Australia Incorporated to ensure the conditions of its lease are complied with.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We have now just the one public statement, and that is from Nick Hidding, and it's on item number 13 on page 7 of the agenda. It's relating to 13.2.1, the amendment to the DA for the warehouse at 146 Maddington Road, Maddington. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, councillors. My name's Nick Hidding, Hidding Urban Planning, representing the owners of 146 Maddington Road in Maddington. Last year, we secured development approval for a very large warehouse development, which is now recently being completed and operational. The application before you tonight is to remove an existing old dwelling, which was part of that development approval. There's no one living in that residence at the moment. It's been the subject of quite substantial vandalism and people breaking into it and such. So the application before you tonight is to remove that dwelling and to replace it with hard stand and storage. There's a recommendation for approval from officers, which we support, but there's a couple of conditions which we'd ask the council to delete. Condition 1 is requiring a crossover to be removed. We prefer that to be retained in place and provide access to that storage area. And secondly, there's a condition number 4, which requires the removal of a fence between the new warehouse development and the new hard stand area. And we'd like for that to be retained because there's actually a level difference between the warehouse development and this existing housing lot, and it requires a retaining wall and a fence to demarcate that area. For security reasons, we'd like to fence that off as well, otherwise that remains open to the warehouse side. So we'd seek for condition 1 and 4 to be removed from the recommendation. Otherwise, very happy for the approval to go through.
Thank you, Mr Hidding.
Thank you.
That brings us to the conclusion of public question and statement time. We'll now move on to confirmation of minutes. Can I get a mover for the minutes, please? Councillor Islam to move that, and a seconder, Councillor Singh. Are there any questions on the minutes, councillors? No? If you could please cast your vote by show of hands. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Now move on to the receiving of petitions and presentations. Are there any? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So we've got 1,208 signatures. I think this might be the biggest petition signature that I've seen since I've been here, but maybe wrong. But we, the undersigned electors of the City of Gosnells, request that the application for development approval of a drive-in cinema at Harmony Fields be denied for the following reasons: traffic congestion, loss of recreational green space and existing infrastructure, loss of visual amenity, noise levels and destruction of wildlife habitat. I'd like to present this and ask for a report, please.
Seeking a seconder, Councillor Adams is happy to second that. Councillors, please cast your vote on the petition. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to applications for... Oh, sorry, are there any other petitions or presentations? No, thank you. Moving on to applications of leave of absence. Are there any? No, thank you. Okay, we move on to item number 13.2.1, the amendment to the development approval at the Warehouse 146, Lot 11, Maddington Road, Maddington. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Dewhurst to move this, and a seconder. Councillor Islam to second this. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I just want to talk in support of this. It makes sense what's actually been put up by the applicant, and ask the councillors to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this? Councillors, I have an amendment to the motion, and the amendment is that Mayor Theresa Lyons proposed the following: that council amends the staff recommendation by the deletion of conditions 1 and 4, with conditions 2 and 3 being renumbered accordingly. For the following reason: the City has only recently become aware of the proposed use of the hardstand area is for a separate leasee to the main building. In that case, the existing crossover serving this corner of the site should be retained, and it would also be unnecessary to link the proposed and existing hardstand area. The intended use of the area does not present any new or different planning considerations under TPS 6 than have already been covered in the report. And I'm seeking a seconder for that. Councillor Betts is happy to second that. And yeah, I don't think there's much more to be said than I've spoken to the Director for Planning on this, and he doesn't see any issues with this given the late information on it. So councillors, I'll seek your support on the amendment, please. Councillor Betts is the seconder. Did you want to speak to the amendment? No? Did anybody else want to speak or ask questions on the amendment? Councillor Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons. Yes, I'm fully in support of your amendment. It actually makes logical sense. I was also part of the original Joint Development Assessment Panel that approved this facility way back in September 2022, so it meets all guidelines and all planning assessments, so I have no problem in supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Any further on the amendment? No, councillors, if you would like to cast your vote on the amendment, please. Thank you. That has been carried. And now put the amendment back with the original item. Is there any further debate or questions on the original item? No? Councillors, if you could please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to 13.2.2, the development application for the home business at 55 Lot 108 Dumbarton Road, Canning Vale. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Barley Singh to move this. A seconder. Councillor Baines to second this. Councillor Singh, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Baines. Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Councillor Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons. Look, I got a bit, when I first read this, I was actually in two minds. I was trying to figure out what was the cause and effect of this particular application, and our briefing has discovered it was parking issues, but also obviously the noise from people doing dance. But the reality is, if you have 2, 3 or 4 children and they're playing songs at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, anyone can do that. So I was trying to work out the fact of, was it a home business or someone's doing some trading, but then the parking was the cause of complaints. I am going to be supporting it, but I'm mindful of the fact that I was trying to work out what was the cause. Yes, it's in a built-up area. Yes, there's lots of people live around, but you can't actually stop people from playing songs or dancing at 3, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon for an hour where you have 2, 3 or 4 people around. So I hope they manage the parking issues here, but otherwise I'm supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Sorry. Is there any further debate or questions on this item? No. Councillors, if you please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Item number 13.2.3, the development application for the additions to the Gosnells Golf Clubs, Ablutions and Canteen, 144 Campbell Road, Canning Vale. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Good to move this. Councillor Dalton to second this. Councillor Good, would you like to speak to this item?
I will in this instance. I am a social club member, but I've already declared that, and you'll have my form at the end of the meeting. And actually, it's a terrific idea. For those who don't know, I'm sure they often do, but being a social member, but I'm a golf sort of fanatic addict type person. I just love the sport, but the fact that they can do this addition and these ablutions in the canteen, it's right in a good spot in the golf course. The members will thoroughly enjoy it, and that's a great thing, and it just enhances the golf course, the golf club for the city of Gosnells. It's worth supporting, so even though I have that conflict of interest of being a social member. I don't actually play there, though. I'm not a full member. I can't afford it. That's a line of thinking. That was a joke, so you can enjoy that. But otherwise, yes, supportive of it.
Is there any further debate or questions on this item? Thank you. No? Okay, councillors, if you please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. Now move on to 13.2.4, the development application, reconsideration of hard stand and storage at 85 lot 406 Victoria Road, Kenwick. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this. Councillor Adams to second this. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to this? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, if you could please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. To item number 13.2.5, the development application reconsideration for transport depot and storage at 113 lot 15 Victoria Road, Kenwick. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Baines to move this and Councillor Betts to second this. Councillor Baines, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Betts, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, Madam Mayor, I really had I've got a problem with where it's going, but I think it's in with SAT at the moment, and I think it's probably better off being played out there. I was going to bring a motion up for deferral to get some questions answered, but I'll just like to speak to some of the issues that I've seen. Now, I've been involved in this for a fair few years now, on this particular area there, and there's been all sorts of things been going on between the city, the state and the applicants as well. So some of the things that I'm really concerned about here is that they're saying that there has to be a 50-metre buffer around the TEC, but I do note and can confirm that the two major builders in the area, being Asperia and Jaceta, have actually built right up to the TEC. Well, one's built up to the TEC, the other one's got sand up against the TEC there. And I find it, this doesn't pass the pub test, the fact that the big boys can do it and little boys can't do it, and it's not really the way to go. I also find that the drainage design now, from my recollection, there was a drainage design done back in 2018, 2019, maybe a little bit after. But when the original application was there, now I was involved in that was because council had actually made they put some conditions on the drainage, and what happened was I was contacted as a councillor and just asked to advocate for them, and we come to quite a good resolution in regards to the drainage. So I'm a little bit perplexed as why we're asking them for another drainage plan. This doesn't make sense to me. It also says that the hard stand must be constructed of sealed dust-free hard stand material. Having visited the property, it was certainly there back in 2016, 2017, and also I believe it was also approved by the City of Gosnells. Now, I'd find it a bit difficult as to why we're asking for that condition to be put on there again, unless it wasn't approved, obviously. Also, an approved on-site effluent disposal system. They've got a current system there. They did make application for it when they did the building back earlier, a few years ago, and having spoken to them, they thought it had been approved, and it hadn't been approved, but the system was applied for, but never finalised. That makes sense? You've got to get inspected after you've done it there. Now, what's happened now is it's now changed in regards to the system that was good back then is not good now because things have changed, and they're looking at now around about $150 and actually $200,000 as quoted by the ATU Waterway Systems in Kalamunda. Now, if we're going to give these people a six-month extension, I can't see why anyone would actually put that condition on someone, particularly if they spend this money and put the toilet system in there, and then when it comes to the ODC or DCP, whatever it is, the Development Contribution Plan, they've actually got to pay them for the sewage to go through as well. So they're going to hit with two whammies. And again, that to me doesn't pass the pub test. I personally would like to see the fact is that they've got an effluent system there, that it's operating fine, have had no issues with it, it really should be left. Also, in here as well is that we've put conditions on them that says that commercial vehicles may only be driven onto the property, subject property between the hours of 7 a.m. 5 p.m. Well, I don't believe anyone has had those conditions put on them on that side of Victoria Road. I may stand corrected. However, the previous item, those conditions weren't actually asked by the City of Gosnells to go on there, so I don't think that's quite fair that we ask the neighbours to do it and then the neighbours on just up the road that they have to do it. That also goes back to routine maintenance of minor nature. I mean, no, we don't want people out there spray painting vehicles or anything like that or dropping oil on the ground and stuff like that, but I mean, you've got to be able to do mechanical work on your property, particularly with some of the machines that they've got. You know, they're small, they actually maintain inside the sheds. And also the maintenance being restricted between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. I don't think we've put that on anyone along Victoria Road. Actually, I stand corrected, we've put that on to one person some years ago, and I'm sure if that come up again now. Councillors, I also we also note that the TEC, they've been asked to put a bund around the TEC with also some fencing on around that as well. Having looked at the site, one of the developers over the back have actually removed that fencing and have put their material right up against the TEC. Yet we're asking these people to maintain a 50-metre apart from it. So again, is it a fair thing? I don't think it is a fair thing for that to occur. However, I think the best option for them to do is because having a lot of new councillors here, they're thinking, well, you know, they've had enough time, you know, to have this sorted out by now. I think it's better it does go to SAT and actually stays there, but I just wanted to have my word about it because I've been intimately engrossed in this for a few years now, and I'd like to see a resolution for the people, and I'd like to see a fair resolution for the people as well. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst, and I'll just enter into the debate, and you can be next, Mr. Councillor Betts. And I understand that you've got, Councillor Dewhurst, you've got a fair degree of sympathy for this, but I agree with you that the best way for this to move forward is through the SAT process, and I think the city's been more than fair with this particular applicant since we've started in 2015. That expired in 2018 and then back to 2022, so it's been ongoing for a while. I think it's time it gets sorted, and I hope that the SAT process gives the city and the applicant that avenue to have that fairly dealt with and conditions that are appropriate to the application put on it through the SAT process. That's all I have on that. Councillor, I'll be voting in favour of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just want to pick up on something that Councillor Dewhurst has said, and that is the TEC. For people in the audience wonder what a TEC is, the Threatened Ecological Community. They're supposed to have automatically a 50-metre buffer around them, and Councillor Dewhurst mentioned that Jacida were able to build right up to it. That didn't happen automatically. They had exactly the same condition, but if you want to encroach on that buffer, you have to go through an application process, and that's what Jacida did. and they were able to convince the Department of Environment, or whatever it's called these days, that it was appropriate, and so that was approved. There's actually nothing preventing the applicant here in this application to make a similar application to and follow the due process. So I just thought that should be put on the record, as does imply, well, the way I understood Councillor Dewhurst to say that it didn't pass the pub test, but I think it does pass the pub test. If a person doesn't apply for something, they obviously don't get it. But if you do apply for it, then there is a process to go through, and Jacinta did do that, so there's nothing untoward about the fact that they, as a big boy, big developer, got this approval, but this applicant hasn't even applied for it, so they can't actually get it until you apply for it. Thank you.
Councillor Betts, is there any further?
Point of clarification, the applicant actually has applied for it, and DBCA did attend the site. I was there on that visit, and or one of the visits from DBCA. So there was an application process through that. I'm not going to go into the reasons why. Didn't go any further, but there was an application put in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Is there any further debate or questions on this item, councillors? No. If you could who moved this? Councillor Dewhurst move. Karen, did you want to close? No. Sorry, Councillor Paynes, did you want to close? Could you please cast your votes then, councillors? Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to 13.4.1, the Community Citizen of the Year Award Selection Panel meeting at the 13th of November 2024. As previously mentioned, there are several impartial declarations, disclosure of interest on this. Doesn't prevent anyone from voting on the item though. So can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Adams to move this. Councillor Dewhurst to second this. Councillor Adams, did you want to speak to this? Councillor Dewhurst? Any other questions or debate on this item, councillors? Question, comment?
Yeah, just being on the little panel that considered them, I'd just like to put on the public record that it would be good to get far more applications or nominations, because for some of the categories we just had 2 nominations, and it would be really good to get broader community support for these awards, so that we get a good choice of people to choose from, rather than just from between 1 and 2. So just really encourage all of us, whether we're councillors or members of the public, to actually nominate people for these awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Is there any further debate or questions on this item? Right, councillors, if you please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. 13.5.1, the panel for O2 2024 manufacture, supply and installation of signage. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Islam to move this. Councillor Zhang to second this. Is there any debate on this, councillors, or questions? No? If you could please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Uh, 13.5.2, the tender for 2024 irrigation electrical services. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Singh, and moved by Councillor Singh, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Is there any debate or questions on this, councillors? No, if you please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Item 13.5.3, the tender for 2024 Leisure World leased gym equipment. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Dewhurst to move this, and a seconder. Councillor Baines to second this. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Baines? And Councillor Lloyd, thank you.
I just had a couple of questions, if possible. How many members does the gym currently have signed up to membership?
Ask Director for Community Engagement. She might not know the answer to that off the top of her head, but we'll
Through
see.
you, Madam Mayor. No, I'm sorry, I don't have that information, but I can certainly take it on notice and get the information to you, Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you. Do you have a next? Thank you.
Well, sorry, my follow-up was going to be, I know previous to the meeting we had a brief discussion about it, but one of the things mentioned was that we would be working on growing those numbers. In expending this amount of money that we're putting forward tonight, is there a plan of how many we would like to attain or what we'd like to grow to?
Thank you. Thank you, Director Blake.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think in our report to Exec, Councillor Lloyd, we undertook to actually cover the costs of the leasing for the equipment. through new memberships.
Anything further on this, councillors? Right, if you could please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Item number 13.5.4, the tender for 15/2024 subdivision construction 137 lot 400 Atfield Street, Maddington. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Adams to move this, Councillor Dalton to second this. Councillor Adams, Councillor Dalton, any other questions or debate on this, councillors? No? Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Item number 13.5.5, the objection to the city declaring a dog dangerous. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Dewhurst to move this and a seconder. Councillor Baines to second this. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Baines, would anyone else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Item 13.5.6, the financial activity statement for October 2024. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Zhang to move this. Councillor Good to second this. Councillor Zhang. Councillor Good. Any other questions on this or debate, councillors? No? Thank you. Please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. 13.5.7, the payment of accounts for October 2024. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Good, thank you, and Councillor Betts to second that. Thank you. Any questions or debate, councillors? No? You please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. 13.5.8, 2023-24 carry forwards for the budget variations. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Zhang to move this. Councillor Baines to second this. Sorry, Councillor McDonald, didn't see you there. Any questions or debate on this, councillors? No, please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. 13.5.9, the 2024-25 budget opening position. Can I get a mover for this, please? No, he's not moving. Sorry. Councillor McDonald to move this, and seconded by Councillor Lloyd. Thank you. Councillor McDonald, would you like to speak to this item? Can't hear you. Councillor Lloyd? No, any other questions or debate, councillors? No, could you please cast your vote? Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. There are no motions of which previous notice has been given. There is no urgent business, no confidential matters. I declare the meeting closed at 7:42. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery. Thank you, councillors, staff, and to those listening at home. Thank you very much.